At breakfast, my daughter said, "I've got something for you." She passed me an envelope. Inside was her husband's $400,000 debt. He said, "It's due by Monday." When I said no, my daughter hurled hot coffee at me. Her husband shouted, "Leave now." An hour later, the police showed up. Imagine facing the person you raised, the one you loved unconditionally, as they look you dead in the eye and throw scalding hot coffee in your face. Why? Because you wouldn't let them take everything you'd ever worked for. That morning, my own daughter tried to steal my entire life, and this is how I fought back. The October light was just starting to peek through my kitchen window, painting familiar shadows across the linoleum. A normal Monday morning. I had my coffee, the Tribune, the sports section, a quiet calm. Then Emily walked in, and everything shattered. "Daddy, I have a surprise for you," she said, a forced brightness in her voice, clutching a thick manila envelope to her chest. Behind her, Mark, my son-in-law, leaned against my kitchen counter with a smug, "I belong here" look that always grated on me. They were interrupting my morning in my house. "What kind of surprise?" I asked, setting down my newspaper, a knot forming in my stomach. Her laugh was too high, too nervous. She practically shoved the envelope at me. My eyes caught the return address, some downtown law firm I'd never heard of. "Go ahead, Jesse," Mark's voice cut through the air, sharp as a knife. "We've been waiting to share this with you." I tore it open. Papers spilled out onto my breakfast table. Official letterheads, columns of numbers, signatures I didn't recognize. My name, over and over. Credit card statements, loan documents, casino receipts, all bearing my name, with balances that made my chest seize up. $400,000 in gambling debts. What the hell is this? I managed, my coffee cup shaking in my hand. "Those are your debts, Daddy," Emily said, the fake sweetness gone from her voice, replaced by something cold. "We found them when we were helping you organize last month. Remember?" I remembered them coming over, claiming they wanted to help. I remembered them rifling through my desk, my filing cabinets, while I made them lunch. But I sure as hell didn't remember signing up for $400,000 in gambling debts. I've never been to a casino in my life. I spread the papers wider. Las Vegas. Atlantic City. Riverboat casinos I'd never even heard of. Mark stepped closer, his presence suddenly suffocating in my own kitchen. Memory isn't what it used to be, is it? Those signatures look pretty authentic to me. And the worst part? They did. Every loop, every curve. Perfectly replicated. "These need to be paid by Monday," Mark's voice went flat, businesslike. "Otherwise, we'll all lose everything. The house, the cars. Everything." Today was Monday. Emily moved to stand next to him, their united front chilling me to the bone. "We can't let that happen, Daddy. We've got nowhere else to go." She was 35 years old, my daughter, standing there with tears welling in her eyes, holding documents that would destroy everything I'd worked for. The daughter I'd raised alone, put through college, helped through Mark's endless career failures. And she was looking at me like I was the problem. "I didn't sign these," my voice was quiet but steady. "Someone forged my name. Who else has access to your personal information?" Emily's tears started to fall, perfectly timed. "Who else knows your social security number? Your mother's maiden name?" All those security questions. The implication hung heavy in the air. Mark shifted, and I caught a glimpse of satisfaction in his eyes before he looked away. "We need to figure this out together," Emily continued, reaching across the table to touch my hand, "as a family. But first, we need to pay these debts before they come after the house." I pulled my hand away, pushing back from the table. Papers scattered across the surface where I'd eaten breakfast for 30 years. "This isn't over," I said, looking from Emily to Mark, not by a long shot. "Daddy, please." Emily's tears streamed. "We're family. How can you even question this? Think about everything we've been through. Mom's funeral, my wedding. All those times you said family comes first." "Family doesn't forge signatures," I retorted, keeping the table between us. "Family doesn't create fake debts." Mark blocked the kitchen doorway. "Now hold on there, Jesse. Those documents are legal and binding. Your signature, your social security number, your responsibility." "My responsibility?" A humorless laugh escaped me. I've never gambled a day in my life. Ask anyone who knows me. People change. Emily wiped her nose, a gesture that reminded me painfully of her as a 7-year-old. Maybe you forgot. Maybe the stress of living alone. I'm not senile. The words came out sharper than I intended. Her carefully modulated sympathy made my skin crawl. Mark took another step. Look around, old man. You think you can handle this place forever? The yard work, the maintenance, keeping track of bills and paperwork. I keep track just fine. Do you? Emily's voice took on a sharper edge. Because we found these documents mixed in with your insurance papers, your tax returns. If you were really on top of things, wouldn't you have noticed $400,000 in debt? She had a point, and she knew it. The papers had been in my desk drawer, filed perfectly. Someone had deliberately placed them there. We're trying to help you, Mark said, using that patronizing tone people use with a child. We could have just let the collectors come, let them take the house. But we wanted to give you a chance to make this right. Make what right? I didn't do anything wrong. Then why are your signatures on every document? Emily pulled out a statement. Look at this handwriting, Daddy. Look at it carefully. It was mine. Not similar, but perfect. The way I dotted my I's, the slight upward slant, even where the pen caught slightly. Anyone can learn to copy a signature, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. In 37 different places? Mark pulled out more sheets. Credit applications, loan documents, casino markers, all signed in the past 6 months. You think someone followed you around for half a year, forging your name on gambling debts? Emily moved closer, her tears replaced by cold, hard rage. We're not asking you to admit anything. We're asking you to take responsibility. These debts exist. They're in your name. If they don't get paid, we all lose everything. I looked around my kitchen, my coffee pot, my calendar on the fridge with my handwriting. This is my house. Technically, yes, Mark smiled, but his eyes didn't reach. But Emily's been helping with the expenses for months. The property taxes last spring. Remember the new roof in August? She's got receipts for all of it. I did remember. Emily had insisted on helping, claiming she was worried about me. Besides, Emily added, her voice dropping to a whisper, where are we supposed to go if they take the house? Mark's been out of work for 3 months. We've been staying here because we literally have nowhere else. That was news to me. I thought they were just visiting more often, wanting to spend time with their old man. If you don't pay these debts, Mark continued, the creditors will go after any assets they can find. The house, the cars, even Emily's jewelry. Everything will be gone. And then what? We'll be living in some shelter downtown. Emily sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. I can't believe this is happening. I thought we could handle it as a family. They're not my actions. But doubt crept into my voice. The signatures were too perfect. And why gambling debts? We need a solution. Mark's tone was businesslike. Today, before the creditors start calling. Emily's chair scraped against the floor as she stood up. Her face transformed from tearful desperation into something I'd never seen before, cold, calculating rage. You know what? I'm done with this. Her voice cracked like a whip. We've tried being reasonable. We've tried explaining, but you're too selfish to care about anyone but yourself. She moved toward the coffee pot, her movements sharp and jerky. 35 years I've been your daughter. 35 years of putting up with your stubborn, self-righteous attitude. Emily, calm down, I said, taking a step back. Calm down. She spun around, coffee pot in her hands, steam rising from the carafe. My husband can't find work. We're about to lose everything. And you're sitting there acting like none of this is your fault. The coffee was still hot. I could see the steam. Her knuckles were white around the handle. I raised you better than this, I said quietly. You raised me to clean up your messes. The words exploded out of her, and suddenly, the coffee pot was arcing through the air. I saw it coming but couldn't move fast enough. The scalding liquid hit me like liquid fire, soaking through my flannel shirt and undershirt in seconds. The heat seared my skin. I gasped, stumbling backward as the coffee dripped down my torso. Jesus, Emily. The pain was immediate, overwhelming. I pulled the wet fabric away, but the damage was done. She stood there, empty pot in hand, chest heaving, looking as shocked as I felt. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Mark stepped forward. His expression wasn't shocked at all. It was satisfied. "Get out, old man." His voice was calm, conversational. "This is our house now. Pack whatever you can carry and get out." "This is my house." I kept my voice steady despite the burning sensation. "I'm the one on the deed. I'm the one who's been paying the mortgage for 30 years. Not anymore." Mark moved closer. "Those debt papers change everything. By tomorrow, the creditors will have liens on this property. But Emily and I can work something out with them. We've got nothing to lose." I looked at my daughter, still clutching the empty coffee pot. The girl I'd taught to ride a bike, the young woman I'd walked down the aisle. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "You planned this." The realization hit me like cold water after the burning coffee. "Both of you. The documents. The timing. Everything. We planned to solve a problem," Mark said. "Your problem. The problem you created with your gambling and your debts and your refusal to take responsibility." The wet shirt was sticking to my skin now. I needed to get it off. But more than that, I needed to get away from these people who looked like my family, but acted like strangers. "I need to change clothes." I started toward the hallway, but Mark shifted to block my path. 5 minutes, he said. "Pack light. We'll send your stuff later if we feel like it." I looked him in the eye. This man I'd welcomed into my home. "Move." Something in my tone must have convinced him because he stepped aside. I could feel him watching as I walked towards my bedroom. Emily's eyes, too. The hallway felt longer than usual. Each step sent fresh waves of pain across my burned chest. Behind me, I heard their low voices, urgent whispers, planning their next move. Dividing up my belongings like I was already dead. My bedroom door closed with a soft click. For the first time all morning, I was alone. I peeled off the coffee-soaked shirt, wincing as the fabric pulled away from my skin. The burns weren't too deep, but they covered most of my chest and upper abdomen in angry red patches. In the mirror, I looked like what I was, a 65-year-old man who'd just been betrayed by the people he trusted most. But my eyes were clear, and my hands were steady as I reached for a clean shirt. They wanted me out. They wanted me to disappear quietly while they took everything. They had no idea what they just started. A clean white cotton shirt felt cool against my burned skin as I buttoned it. My hands moved with practiced efficiency despite the tremor of anger. 30 years of getting dressed for work had ingrained the routine. The suitcase came down from the closet shelf. Into it went 3 days' worth of clothes, my prescription bottles, and a manila folder from my desk drawer. The important papers they hadn't found yet. Property deed, insurance documents, birth certificate, the will I'd written after Emily's wedding. Everything that proved this house belonged to me. My wallet held $200 cash, enough to get by. Car keys jingled softly as I slipped them into my pocket alongside my phone. 10 minutes. That's all the time I allowed myself before closing the suitcase and heading for the back door. I couldn't risk another confrontation. The October morning air cut through my shirt like a blade. My burned chest protested the cold, but I kept walking across the backyard toward Robert Hayes's fence. Robert had lived next door for 15 years, a retired high school history teacher. We'd shared plenty of conversations. But I'd never imposed on him like this. Never shown up at his door looking like a refugee from my own life. His kitchen light was on. I saw him through the window, reading his newspaper. A normal morning routine, the kind I'd been enjoying myself less than an hour ago. I knocked on his back door, trying to sound casual, not desperate. Robert opened it, wearing a blue terry cloth robe, his expression deepening with concern when he saw my face. "Jesse, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse than that." I shifted the suitcase. "I need to ask a favor if you don't mind. Could I come in for a few minutes?" He waved me inside. His kitchen was warm and smelled like bacon. The kind of comfortable atmosphere I'd lost somewhere between Emily's envelope and her coffee assault. "Sit down. Sit down. You want some coffee? Something to eat?" "Coffee would be good." I set the suitcase beside my chair, easing myself down, trying not to wince. "I've got a story to tell you, Robert. Not a good one. He poured coffee into a mug decorated with a faded Chicago Bears logo and set it in front of me. I'm listening. Where to start? With this morning's betrayal? Or with the pattern I should have seen coming years ago? For years ago, I took in Emily and Mark when they said they needed help getting back on their feet. The words felt strange, like admitting a crime. Biggest mistake I ever made. Robert's eyebrows rose slightly, but he didn't interrupt. Good teacher habit. I thought I was helping family. Turns out, I was enabling two people who saw me as nothing more than a walking bank account. What kind of help are we talking about? Robert leaned forward. It started small. Emily called, said Mark had lost another job. Couldn't make rent. Could they stay in my spare room for a month, just until he found something new? I stared into my coffee, seeing the reflection of my own stupidity. 1 month turned into 6. 6 months turned into 4 years. And Mark never found work. He found it, all right. And lost it. 3 different jobs in the first year alone. Always someone else's fault. But that wasn't the real problem. Robert waited. The real problem started in my garage. I had my tools organized the way I'd kept them for 30 years. Everything in its place, everything labeled. Mark decided that was inefficient. Came home one day to find he'd rearranged everything. When I asked him about it, you know what he said? What? This is our garage now, Jesse. We're all family here. The words still stung even 4 years later. Our garage in my house with my tools. Robert's face darkened. He actually said that. Like he was doing me a favor. That should have been my first warning. But Emily defended him. Said he was just trying to help. How did Emily react when you objected? She didn't react. That was the problem. Her husband moves into my house, starts rearranging my possessions, claims ownership of my space, and she acted like that was normal. Like I was being unreasonable. Through the window, I saw shadows moving in my kitchen. They were still there, making themselves at home in the house they'd just tried to steal. It got worse from there. Mark started treating the whole house like his personal domain. Eating my food without asking, using my car, inviting his friends over for poker games until 3 a.m. And Emily? She made excuses. Always. When I complained about the noise, she said I was being too sensitive. When I objected to his friends drinking my beer, she said I was being selfish. When he started bringing home stray dogs, she said I was being heartless. This went on for 4 years? Robert shook his head. It escalated. The boundary violations got bigger, bolder. Last year, Mark convinced me to invest in some business opportunity. A food truck franchise that was supposedly guaranteed to turn a profit. $15,000. My entire savings account. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Guess what happened to that food truck? It never existed. Oh, it existed. Mark bought it, all right. When I confronted him, he said the business model was flawed and he was protecting me from further losses. Robert's coffee mug hit the table with a sharp click. He stole $15,000 from you and called it protection? Emily backed him up. Said he'd made the best decision he could. Said I should be grateful he'd limited my losses. Why didn't you throw them out then? Because Emily's my daughter. Because I kept thinking this was temporary. Because every time I tried to set boundaries, Emily would cry and talk about family loyalty. Robert refilled our mugs. This morning was different though. This morning, they showed me documents claiming I owe $400,000 in gambling debts. Debts I never incurred, with my signature forged on every page. For $100,000? Robert's voice rose with disbelief. Complete with payment schedules and collection notices, all very official looking. I pulled out my phone, showing him the photos I'd taken. Look at this signature. Tell me that doesn't look exactly like my handwriting. Robert studied the screen, his expression grim. This is fraud. Criminal fraud. That's what I told them. You know what Emily did when I refused to pay? I looked up from my phone. She threw a pot of hot coffee at me. Robert's face went pale as he saw the reddened skin visible above my shirt collar. She actually burned you? Emily's not the same person anymore. Or maybe she never was the person I thought she was. And that's not even the worst part. You want to know where those debts really came from? He nodded grimly. Mark's got a gambling problem that makes my alleged addiction look like pocket change. Online poker, sports betting, casino trips to Indiana and Iowa. I scrolled through more photos, screenshots of betting sites left open on my computer. He's been using my internet, my credit cards, even my social security number to create accounts. How do you know all this? Because he got sloppy. Left browser windows open. Forgot to log out. I found betting histories going back 2 years. Thousands of dollars in losses every month. Look at these transaction amounts. $500 here, $800 there, building up to $3,000 and $4,000 bets on football games. Robert shook his head. This is massive fraud. It gets worse. When the gambling sites cut him off, he moved to loan sharks. Found text messages on his phone about money owed to people with names like Fat Tony and Iceman Mike. I swiped to another screenshot. These aren't bank representatives, Robert. These are dangerous people. Near as I can figure, about $300,000 in legitimate gambling debts. Another $100,000 in interest and penalties. But here's the kicker. He's been arrested. Arrested last year for writing fraudulent checks. Got out on bail. Trial scheduled for next month. I leaned back in my chair, finally able to say out loud what I'd been piecing together all morning. Emily knew. She knew about the gambling, the arrest, the fake documents. This whole thing was planned to make me responsible for his debts before the trial starts. Robert's hands clenched into fists. That's why they needed you out of the house today. Once you're gone, they can claim residency and force the creditors to negotiate with them instead of coming after you directly. Exactly. And Emily's name isn't on any of the debt papers, so legally, she's clean. Mark takes the fall for the gambling, goes to prison, and she inherits a house she never worked for. I could see the whole scheme now. They'd been playing this game for 4 years, setting me up piece by piece. The boundary violations, the financial manipulation, the isolation from other family members. They've been grooming you to be the perfect victim. And I let them do it. Made excuses, rationalized their demands, convinced myself it was normal family conflict. I stared out the window toward my house, where the shadows still moved behind the curtains. I enabled my own destruction. Robert stood up abruptly. This has gone far enough. We need to call the police. Police? The suggestion caught me off guard. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Ready? Robert's voice carried the sharp edge of a man who'd spent 30 years dealing with teenage nonsense and recognized manipulation. Jesse, they've committed identity theft, fraud, assault, and attempted extortion. Your daughter threw scalding coffee at you this morning. What exactly are you waiting to be ready for? I looked down at my trembling hands. Part of me still wanted to believe this was a terrible misunderstanding. She's still my daughter. No, Robert's voice was firm, but not unkind. Your daughter died sometime in the last 4 years. The woman living in your house is a criminal who happens to share your DNA. He moved his kitchen phone, an old-fashioned landline. We're calling 911 right now before they have time to destroy evidence or disappear with whatever else they can steal. I wanted to argue, to delay, to avoid the final acknowledgement that my family had become my enemy. But Robert was right. The Jesse Fisher who'd raised Emily with love and patience was gone. Make the call. Robert's hands slammed down on the table. This is criminal behavior, Jesse. Not family drama. Crimes. Multiple felonies. I know you're right. My voice came out quieter. It's just, she's still my daughter. No, Robert said again, lifting the handset and holding it out. Your daughter wouldn't throw scalding coffee at her father. Your daughter wouldn't forge legal documents to steal your house. The woman in your kitchen right now is a criminal who happens to share your DNA. The handset felt heavier than it should have when I took it. What if Emily goes to jail? What if she kills you next time? Robert's voice cut through my hesitation like a scalpel. Because there will be a next time, Jesse. People like this don't stop escalating until someone stops them. I looked down at the burn marks visible above my shirt collar. The pain was still there, a constant reminder of how completely I'd misjudged the people I trusted most. You're right. I lifted the handset to my ear and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? A calm voice answered. I need to report a domestic assault, I said. The words felt strange, but accurate. I was attacked in my own home this morning. Are you injured, sir? Yes. Coffee burns on my chest and neck. The perpetrator threw hot coffee at me. Are you in a safe location now? Yes, I'm at my neighbor's house. I gave Robert's address, my voice growing steadier with each factual detail. My daughter, Emily Thompson. She and her husband have been living in my house. They presented me with fraudulent debt documents this morning, demanding I pay $400,000 in gambling debts I never incurred. When I refused, she became violent. Her husband threatened me as well, demanded I leave my own property. Are the perpetrators still at your residence? Yes, both of them. Emily Thompson and Mark Thompson. I spelled their names carefully. Officers are being dispatched. Can you remain where you are? Yes. When the call ended, I set the handset back in its cradle, my hands steadier than they'd been all morning. How do you feel? Robert asked. Like I just crossed a bridge I can never uncross. I looked towards the window facing my house. But it was the right thing to do. Robert nodded. They're here. Through the window, a black and white patrol car turned onto our street, followed by a second. 2 officers emerged. Let's go get justice. I met them at Robert's front door. Mr. Fisher, I'm Officer Martinez. This is Officer Chen. We're responding to your domestic assault call. Her eyes immediately went to the burns on my neck. I unbuttoned my shirt enough to show them. Officer Chen took photos while Martinez asked questions. I gave them the facts chronologically: Emily's arrival, the documents, the escalating argument, Mark's threats, Emily's assault. Do you have the documents they showed you? Chen asked. They're still in my house. I was forced to leave them behind. Martinez and Chen exchanged a look. We'll need to interview the other parties and secure any evidence. Would you be willing to accompany us to your residence? Of course. The walk across the yard felt longer than usual, with Robert and 2 officers flanking me like an honor guard. My house looked different somehow, smaller, less welcoming, as if their presence had infected the very structure. Officer Chen knocked on the front door with authority. Police, open up. I heard scrambling inside, then Emily's voice. Just a minute. When the door opened, Emily's face went pale. Behind her, Mark appeared, his expression shifting from surprise to calculation. Emily Thompson, we need to speak with you about an incident that occurred here this morning, Martinez said. I don't know what you're talking about. Emily's voice was high-strained. We have a complaint of domestic assault. Chen moved to separate them. I watched from the front lawn as the officers took control. 20 minutes later, after examining the scattered debt documents and photographing the coffee stains, Martinez returned. Mr. Fisher, based on the physical evidence and statements, we have probable cause to make arrests. I watched through the living room window as Officer Chen called for backup. Emily Thompson, you're under arrest for domestic battery. Martinez's voice carried across the yard. You have the right to remain silent. Emily's protests echoed. It was an accident. I didn't mean to hurt him. But Mark's reaction was different. As Officer Chen handcuffed him, his face twisted with rage. This is harassment. The old man brought this on himself. Even facing arrest, he blamed everyone but himself. The transport van arrived. I stood beside Robert, watching as Emily and Mark were loaded into separate vehicles. Emily was crying now, mascara running. Mark continued arguing until the van door closed. Martinez handed me a case number and contact information. Someone will be in touch about pressing charges. As the police cars pulled away, taking my daughter and son-in-law to jail, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Not satisfaction, not victory, but simple relief that the lies were finally over. Come on, Robert said quietly, putting a hand on my shoulder. Let's go home. 3 weeks later, I was reading the Tribune's local section when Robert knocked on my front door, holding another manila envelope. You might want to see this, he said, settling into my kitchen chair, the same spot where Emily had ambushed me. I've been keeping track of court filings. The envelope contained photocopies of legal documents bearing Mark Thompson's name, bankruptcy petition, multiple creditor lawsuits, probation violation hearing, employment termination notice. How did you get all this? Public records, Robert explained, spreading the papers across my table. Court clerk's office, bankruptcy court, county records. It's all available if you know where to look. I scanned the bankruptcy filing. Chapter 7. Complete liquidation of assets. The man who tried to steal my house was now begging a federal judge to wipe away $300,000 in gambling debts. Look at this one. Robert pointed to a letter. His car got repossessed 2 days after the arrest. Couldn't make the payments without Emily's income. The employment termination letter was particularly satisfying. Mark's construction company had fired him immediately. Where is he living now? I asked, though I suspected I knew. Salvation Army shelter on Harrison Street. Robert pulled out another document. Emily filed for divorce while she was still in jail. Froze their joint bank account. I studied the divorce papers, noting Emily's signature from the Cook County lockup. Even facing criminal charges herself, she'd moved quickly to cut ties with Mark's financial catastrophe. The IRS is auditing him, too, Robert continued, flipping to another page. Unreported gambling winnings going back 3 years. They're claiming he owes $40,000 in back taxes and penalties. The audit notice was dated just 5 days after his arrest. Someone had been thorough in reporting Mark's illegal activities. You've been busy, I observed. Robert's smile was slight, but satisfied. Former teacher, remember? I know how to do research. A court summons caught my eye. Mark was scheduled for sentencing next week on the domestic violence charges. Given his prior fraud conviction and probation violation, the prosecutor was recommending 6 months in county jail. The loan shark angle was the most disturbing, I said, looking at text message printouts from Tony M. and Mike Ice with graphic threats about broken kneecaps. These people don't mess around. That's why he's staying at the shelter. Harder for them to find him there. Robert gathered the papers back into a neat stack. His whole world collapsed in 3 weeks, Jesse. Everything he tried to steal from you is gone. I poured coffee for both of us. The irony that this beverage had once been a weapon wasn't lost on me. Now it was just coffee shared between friends, reviewing the downfall of a man who'd overplayed his hand. What about Emily? Robert's expression grew more serious. That's a separate story, and it's not over yet. Emily's story unfolded differently, but with equal devastation. While Mark faced financial ruin, she confronted the complete destruction of every relationship she'd ever valued. The domestic battery charge carried serious consequences. The judge had been clear: 18 months probation, mandatory anger management, and a permanent restraining order preventing any contact with me. She violated the restraining order twice in the first week, Robert told me over lunch at a diner downtown. Showed up at your house both times while you were at the grocery store. Neighbors called it in. I set down my sandwich, appetite gone. What did she want? According to the police report, she was trying to get inside. Said she'd left important documents. Second time, she was just sitting on your front porch crying. Each violation resulted in more fines, extended probation. Emily was learning that consequences accumulated. Her job situation was particularly harsh. Her retail manager position had evaporated within hours of her arrest photo appearing in the local paper. No one wanted to employ someone convicted of domestic violence. She's staying at the women's shelter on Madison, Robert continued. Lost the apartment she shared with Mark when the lease expired. Landlord refused to renew after the police visits. The divorce proceedings had become nasty quickly, their lawyer withdrawing due to non-payment of fees. She tried calling you 17 times last Tuesday, Robert said, showing me a printout he'd obtained. Left 9 voicemails. I hadn't listened to a single message. The phone company had blocked her number, but Emily kept trying from different phones. She sent you this. Robert pulled an envelope from his jacket. Came to my address yesterday. Figured she knew you wouldn't open anything from her directly. The letter was 3 pages long, handwritten. I read the first paragraph before folding it back up. She wants another chance. What are you going to do? I looked out the diner window at the ordinary people passing by. Nothing. She made her choice 4 years ago when she chose Mark over basic decency. The anger management counselor says she's making progress, Robert offered. Court reports show perfect attendance, active participation. Good for her. I signaled the waitress for our check. Maybe she'll learn something useful for her next family. Robert studied my face. You're really done with her. She threw scalding coffee at me to defend a man who was stealing my life savings. I counted out bills for lunch, my movements deliberate and final. Some bridges can't be rebuilt once they're burned. The drive home was quiet, both of us processing the weight of permanent family separation. As we pulled into my driveway, I noticed a small bouquet of flowers tucked against my front door. Daisies and baby's breath, the kind Emily used to pick from my garden as a child. She was here again, Robert observed. I collected the flowers and dropped them directly into the garbage can beside my porch. Let me know if she contacts you again. I'll have my lawyer send another cease and desist letter. Inside my house, the afternoon light streamed through clean windows onto furniture I'd rearranged to suit my preferences. For the first time in 4 years, my home felt truly mine again. The phone rang as I was making tea. Unknown number. Probably Emily from another borrowed phone. I let it ring. 1 month after the morning that changed everything, I sat in my kitchen with coffee and the newspaper, finally able to enjoy both without fear of interruption. The November light was softer, more golden. The locksmith had done excellent work. New deadbolts, reinforced door frames, a security system. These weren't paranoid precautions. They were practical safeguards against people who'd already proven their willingness to cross any boundary. My phone rang, and I answered without hesitation. The caller ID showed a number I'd been expecting. Jesse, it's Margaret from Food and Travel magazine. Ready to get back to work? More than ready. I swiveled my chair toward the window overlooking my restored garden. What do you have for me? Portland's got 3 new restaurants our readers are asking about. Vietnamese fusion, farm-to-table, and something called deconstructed comfort food. Interested? Send me the details. I pulled up my calendar application, noting with satisfaction how empty it was of family obligations and manufactured crises. I can fly out next week. For 30 years, I'd maintained 2 lives with careful precision. Jesse Fisher, the retired mechanic, was the persona my family knew, modest pension, simple tastes, someone who needed their help. But Jesse Fisher, the restaurant critic, was entirely different, well-traveled, financially independent, with a reputation built on honest reviews and exacting standards. The deception had been necessary. Emily's mother had always resented my frequent travel. After her death, I'd kept the secret partly from self-protection, sensing even then that Emily's relationship with money was complicated. How long has it been since your last review? Margaret asked. For months. I took some personal time to deal with family issues. Well, those issues seemed to have resolved themselves. She had no idea how completely accurate that statement was. After we hung up, I walked through my house, noting the changes that had accumulated. The garage was organized again, my tools in their proper places. The spare bedroom had been stripped of all traces of unwanted occupants. Fresh paint, new bedding. My computer desk returned to its position in my home office, hidden behind a false panel I'd installed years ago. My professional files waited in perfect order, press credentials, expense reports, correspondence with editors at a dozen major publications. The work that had quietly funded my comfortable retirement while my family assumed I was struggling on a mechanic's pension. Robert knocked on the back door, carrying a bottle of wine and wearing the satisfied expression of someone bearing good news. Final court date was today. Mark got 8 months in county. Emily got 2 years probation plus restitution. How much restitution? $15,000 for the documented damages, plus court costs. Robert opened the wine. She'll be paying you monthly for the next 5 years. I accepted a glass, considering the irony. The daughter who'd tried to steal my house would now be sending me checks every month. A regular reminder of her betrayal, converted into practical compensation. To justice, Robert proposed, raising his glass. To peace, I countered. Outside my kitchen window, the garden showed the first signs of my restoration efforts. New plantings, fresh mulch around the roses my wife had loved. The physical space was healing along with everything else. My phone buzzed with a text from Margaret. Flight details attached. Portland awaits your expert opinion. For the first time in months, I smiled without reservation. The woman who tried to destroy my life was facing consequences. The man who tried to steal my home was in jail. And Jesse Fisher, both versions of him, was finally free to live authentically. Tomorrow, I'd book that flight to Portland. Tonight, I'd plan my route through the city's most promising restaurants, my appetite for good food and honest work fully restored. The house settled around me with the comfortable sounds of home. Perfect. It's crazy to think what people will do for money, even family. I mean, my own daughter. It still makes my blood boil sometimes. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have called the police on your own child, or would you have tried to handle it another way? Let me know in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious what you guys think.